Hey y'all, welcome. So happy to have you here today. It might be July and it might feel like it is 1,000 degrees outside. At least it does here in North Carolina, but I'm going to try to help you forget all about that. We're going to create some beautiful Christmas DIYs to get us ready for the holidays. Let's get started. We're going to recycle this window frame I created using 4 picture frames from the Dollar Tree several years ago. And I just glued them together with hot glue and E6000, and then I reinforced them on the back with some large popsicle sticks. And as you can see, it was spray painted brown, and then I just distressed it with a little bit of white paint from Waverly. And we're going to be adding some florals to the corner of the picture frame, and I've just cut down a small piece of floral foam, and I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue that to the upper corner. We're going to be using a variety of greenery. Some of it came from Amazon and some of it came from the Dollar Tree. The greenery from Amazon, I'll link it down in the description box for you. I'm also going to be using a variety of textures and colors of greenery because to me it makes your project look more high-end and it just gives it more depth when you use a variety of colors and textures. But of course, use whatever you have on hand. Don't feel that you have to go out and buy a variety of greenery. Just pull from your stash and make it work. But anywho, I'm just kind of bending and adjusting the greenery as I'm inserting it into the floral foam because I want it to curve along the edge of the frame. And then I'm just going to continue to build a good base of this. I believe it's called Cedar Picks, y'all. I can't remember off the top of my head. If it's not, I'll put it here on the screen when I'm editing back. Thanks so much for stopping by. I truly appreciate you. I'm so happy to be back. I took a little time off, just a little mental health break, just to relax and recoup just a little bit. Sometimes you just got to do that. I would love to know what everybody's been up to for this summer. I hope you're having a healthy and safe summer so far. Drop me a comment down below and tell me what you've been up to. We're going to add some pine cones to the project, and I want them to look like they're covered in snow. So to achieve that, I'm just using an old paintbrush and some white paint from Waverly, and I'm just going to gently dab around over each of the pine cones until they look like they're covered in snow. As you can see, I've already added greenery to the bottom of the frame, and then I'm just going to hot glue those pine cones right on top of that greenery and just kind of hold them in place until that glue has time to set up. We're going to make a really quick and simple bow to go in the center of the greenery in the top corner of the frame. And this gorgeous ribbon came from Hobby Lobby. Picked it up last year during the holidays. This project was actually made last year before the holidays, just didn't have time to get it edited and out before Christmas DIYs went away. So y'all know how that works in the land of crafting. But anywho, I believe my loops were about 5.5-ish, 4 and 3, something like that. It doesn't have to be exact, whatever fits your project. You just make your loops the size that you want. I'm just checking to make sure my loops are fairly even on each side. Then I'm just going to cinch it in the center with a zip tie, and then I like to, before I pull it tight in the center, I like to adjust my bow or my loops on each side again, making sure they're even, and then I'll make any other adjustments that might be needed to the bow before I pull the zip tie really tight and snip off that tail. I'm going to use hot glue to attach the bow, and off camera I just wrapped another piece of the ribbon around the center of the bow just to cover up that zip tie. We've got a lot of greenery going on with this project, so to help break that up just a bit, I'm going to add in some of this white cedar. This is from the Dollar Tree. It's so pretty, but y'all, it is so messy. So just keep that in mind if you're going to work with this stuff. And it will also help to fill in any gaps or holes that might be left. And then once I have that in, I'm going to come back with some of these little bits and pieces of berries. It's just left over from other projects, and just add those around the bow. And I thought they were just so pretty and just complemented the red cardinals so much. And then I'll just repeat the exact same thing on the other end of the frame. We're going to add a sign to the center of the frame, and this came from Hobby Lobby last year. I believe I got it for 50% off. And anyway, I just gave it 2 coats of crimson from Waverly Chalk Paint. To attach the sign, I'm using E6000, but of course you can use whatever glue that you might have on hand. And then once I get my placement just right, I'm just going to press it down, and then to make sure it's going to stay in place while the glue sets up, I just put some books on top of it and let it set overnight. I think this turned out so pretty. I absolutely love it. It's just such a beautiful rustic piece, and it's very versatile. You can use whatever color ribbon you have on hand, whatever greenery you might have. Now I am going to trim up those tails just a little bit on the bow. It's just a little too long for my taste, but I got to dig it out of my shed first. I've got it tucked away in my shed, and don't mind my trees. I took this before I took my tree down, so it doesn't have anything on it but lights. But I'd love to know what you think. Today's video is part of the What Would You Make collaboration. It's held the 4th Sunday of each month, and our hosts are Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY and Christine from Divine Design. And this month they have a guest host, and it's Joanna from JoannasDIYLife. And I'll have their channels along with the playlist down in my description box. After you finish my video, I hope you'll hop on over to their channels and give them a great big hello and a great big thumbs up. If you're here from the playlist, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. For this project, you're going to need one of these wood squares from the Dollar Tree, and then 2 of their peel and sticks, and I'm using the ones that look like brick. You can use whichever ones you prefer. And as you can see, it's not quite long enough, so we need the second one. So we're only going to be using a tiny piece of that second one, but we'll get there in just a moment. When I'm working with these peel and stick papers, I like to start by peeling back just about maybe 1/3 to half of the backing. To me, it makes it so much easier to handle. And then I'm just going to line it up as best I can along the edge of the wood square, and then just smooth it down. And then as I'm working across the wood square, I'm just going to gently pull that backing off just a little bit at a time while I'm continuing to smooth it out. These are really so easy to work with, and I just love them. Then I'm going to take that second sheet and I'm going to lighten it up and match it up as best I can. Just really make sure those 2 edges meet, and I'm just kind of pressing them together and then pressing down onto the surface of the board and just running my finger up and down, making sure that there's no separation between the 2. I'm just going to cut off the excess part of the other peel and stick, and then I'm going to come back in with my brayer, and I'm just going to really run it over that seam and just really press down, not too hard, but you want to use firm pressure. And I'm just going to continue that all the way across the surface of the board, making sure, especially along the edges and the corners, that peel and stick is really adhering to the board. Then I'll just come back in with my sanding block and sand away any excess paper that's hanging over the edges. I want this to look like a Christmas tree in front of a brick wall, so we're literally going to build a Christmas tree. And I'm using this limb. I just went out and cut one off of my tree outside, cut it down to size, and I'm just using hot glue to attach it. You can use whatever glue you prefer. I'm trying to move this project along because I'm running behind as always, and just tapping it down in place. And then the greenery I'm using from an old garland, and y'all, I didn't realize till I got started that this garland was pretty much dry rotted. Big mess, but anywho, it worked. And I just cut the pieces down to size, and I'm just going to use hot glue and attach it to the stick, and then just kind of work my way up, making a Christmas tree. You don't have to use the stick if you don't want, but this is What Would You Make, so I'm using wood. And you can see I'm just attaching it, and I intended on just stopping here, not making it a real big Christmas tree, but I wasn't too happy with how it was looking, so I just kept popping in pieces of greenery and filling it out. It's a very full and kind of fat Christmas tree, but that's okay. I personally love it, and Once I got all the pieces in, it was looking kind of plain, so I'm coming back in with some of these other little pieces. Now these little stems did come from the Dollar Tree last year, and I've just snipped some off, and I'm just hot gluing them randomly throughout the tree just to give it a little bit of added dimension. I felt that the tree needed a pop of color, so we're going to add in some of these little red berries, and these are from the Dollar Tree, but however I've had them 2, maybe even 3 years now, but any berry will work, and I've just cut them down into small pieces using a little hot glue and just adding them in. And once I got all the berries in, I still felt the tree looked a little dark, so I'm just using some white acrylic paint and an old stiff paintbrush and just dabbing it around over the greenery, the berries, everything, and just dabbing it around, just to lighten it up, number one, and to make it look like it's covered in snow. This part is strictly optional. If you don't want to do this, you can definitely skip it. To cover up the raw edges of the sign and to give it a more finished look, I'm going to use some of this braided twine, and this is from Amazon. I'll link it down below for you. I'm just using some hot glue, tapping it into place, and I'm just going to repeat this all the way around the sign. If y'all are enjoying my video, I hope you'll give me a big thumbs up and let me know that you're enjoying it. If you're not subscribed, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and smash that subscribe button while you're giving me that thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. I cut my twine just a little too short, so it left a little tiny gap between the two pieces, but that's okay. We're going to fix that by covering it up with the bow, because we're going to be making a really simple and easy bow with this ribbon that came from Amazon. I'll link it down below for you, and I've just looped over 2 pieces just like I'm making an awareness bow, stack them on top of each other. In the center, I like to adjust my loops and my ribbon just to make sure everything's in place. Then I'll pull it tightly, and then I will just go ahead and dovetail the ends of the ribbon and then snip off that long piece of the zip tie. Then I'll just use some hot glue and attach the bow. I do go back later and shorten those tails. They're just a little too long. And then to cover up the center of the bow where the zip tie is, I'm just using 3 more of my little tiny pine cones, and these are left over and recycled from a project a couple of years ago. Y'all, whenever I'm creating rustic Christmas pieces, I love to use pine cones, and I love to use them in 3, so I hope y'all are not getting too tired of that. For our tree topper, we're just going to use this little small star. This is from the Dollar Tree. It was originally gold. I just painted it with some of that white paint that I used on the tree. A little hot glue, and I'm just going to pop it right at the top, and we are finished. I think this turned out so cute and adorable. I just love it, and it's so versatile. It could be a shelf sitter, or it can hang on the wall or something. I've attached just a little small piece of twine to the back of it, and I'm showing it here hanging, but again, you could shorten the bow, really shorten the bow, and make it a shelf sitter. Either way, I think it is just so pretty. Thank you for watching. I hope these DIYs gave you some early holiday inspiration. And if you had fun, go ahead and tap that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit, and I'll see you soon.